back. Okay, here's a question for you. Have you ever heard of Looksmaxxing? Yes. Well, it's an online trend that's making waves on social media among boys and men, and our next guest is here to tell us all about it.
Please welcome to the show Assistant Professor of Social Work at the University of Toronto, Kyle Ganson. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. All right, we like to start with definitions and understanding. So what exactly is Looksmaxxing?
Yeah, Looksmaxxing is an online trend that really focuses on trying to optimize your physical appearance and your attractiveness. And of course, it's very much specific to young boys and men.
Interesting.
Okay, so this is a new trend. And what ideal are they really trying to achieve?
In the Looksmaxxing community, it really focuses on a facial structure that has really strong symmetry, really defined bone structure. So that's the facial appearance, but then there's also the body. So it could be highly muscular, that sort of V-shape or broad shoulders, thinner waist. And then, of course, there is the social component, which is being able to actually engage in social conversations very effectively, you know, and maintain social dynamics in that way.
Interesting. All right, so you say there are two forms of look-maxing, soft maxing and hard maxing. So let's start with soft maxing. What is that?
Soft maxing would be seen as like lower risk, less extensive behaviors like facial massage or this idea of mewing where you put your tongue on the top of your mouth to kind of try and shape your facial structure. It could be hair loss prevention, things of that nature. Whereas hard maxing is a lot more risky, extensive. It could be things like cosmetic surgery or Botox or limb lengthening or steroid use or even this idea of bone smashing.
Bone smashing.
What is bone
What
smashing?
is bone smashing?
Yeah, this is a bit of an extreme behavior where some people are taking like small little hammers and they're like gently hammering facial structures in order to shape and craft their jawline and their bone structure, yes.
Wow. I mean, it's horrifying. I'm just curious, like this has been a domain that I feel like has been the domain of women primarily for a long time. Maybe not bone smashing, but sort of this idea of trying to change the way that you look. Where did this start, would you say, for men? Where did this originate?
Yeah, I mean, certainly this idea of looksmaxing comes a bit out of this manosphere, the involuntarily celibate or incel movement, or sort of deeper corners of the internet, which is now transformed very mainstream. You see it on TikTok, you see it on Reddit, you see it on Instagram. And so, and again, that's sort of an underlying theme that body image and body ideals for men are becoming much more prominent and more mainstream overall.
And what impact are you seeing this have on people?
There's very little research on what are the impacts of this. And most of the research that's been done is really focused on analyzing content on online forums of people who are engaging in this. I'm doing some research now actually interviewing people who are engaging, and they talk about things like you know, body comparisons, facial comparisons, body dissatisfaction, and all that can lead to eating disorders or body dysmorphic disorder. And in fact, I'll say that there was actually in Ontario from 2002 to 2019, there was an over 400% increase in pediatric hospitalizations for boys. So this is really becoming a bigger issue that we need to be thinking about.
I mean, I'm going to ask about any potential positive sides, but what is the social impact of this kind of behavior?
Well, I think that's becoming much more focused on appearance as a primary mechanism of engagement, of status for young people, and particularly young boys. They see it as the only way to maybe date somebody or feel competent within their social environment.
Okay, you mentioned something earlier because you said this was potentially coming out of the incel movement, which is involuntary celibates. We've talked a little bit about them in the past, but and so this is in that which seems very misogynist as a movement. So this is quite the opposite. They are, in fact, trying to seek connection with women.
Yeah, but they're seeing their body and attractiveness as predetermined, right? That you, if you're attractive and you are, it's genetically based, right? Like you have what you have and that's it. But you can maximize it to be able to look as attractive as possible, to attract people, to be have a higher social status, because we know that looks and appearance can get you things like a better job or more income or just more social status within your life.
Okay, I mean, I know we're all a little horrified right now, but is there any positive to this?
Yeah, I think people who do engage in it, again, more of the soft maxing, right? They feel maybe more confident. Maybe they do prevent some hair loss. Maybe they clean up their skin, less acne. So and there's some general confidence, but I think attached to that is often the intense focus on their body, the body dissatisfaction or comparisons with others, which can lead to some more negative adverse effects.
Okay, so for people who might have people in their lives who might be targeted towards this kind of content, what are some warning signs to look out for when it comes to drawing the line between, you know, quote unquote healthy looksmaxing versus, you know, more extreme behaviors?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's very hard to like create a line of what's problematic and what's more healthy. I think the keys are how much and how intense is the body dissatisfaction interaction. Things like functional impairment, like if it's a young person, are their grades slipping? Are they no longer socializing? The intensity and frequency of the behaviors they're engaging in, right? Is it ramping up and becoming more problematic? And then is there any other mental health concerns? Like, are they thinking about suicide because they're so upset about their appearance? Or are they super anxious that they can't get out of bed, or they can't look at themselves in the mirror? Those would be things to really pay attention to.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are watching who are just finding out about this for the first time. So I'm wondering if they see this type of extreme behavior, what can they do to prevent or perhaps intervene?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of key things. One is this idea of respectful curiosity, which I always promote, which is don't judge, don't shame, right? It's likely that this young person is just embedded in this community. This is part of the people that they're talking with. So if we shame or judge them, they might decide to pull away and actually not engage in that connection. So don't be judgmental. Go along the journey, ask questions to learn as much as possible about it. I think the other piece is media literacy, making sure that, especially young people, they know the content they're looking at is likely shaping how they think about themselves and how they feel about themselves and the behaviors that they engage in. And I think for young men in particular, we need to socialize them to talk more about their appearance and their feelings, to be able to engage in conversations. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about how I look. And be able to have those communication and seek help when they need to and reach out.
Yeah, we call these generations the digital natives. They're online more than they are interacting in real life in some cases. So should we be limiting social media, or should they be limiting?
I think there's two thoughts to that. One is maybe reducing it might be very helpful. The other is what the content is that they're actually looking at. Because some content is fun, it's memes, it's sort of seeing their friends, it's sports videos or whatever. But it's also going to be some of those body ideals, those pressures to engage in some of these behaviors. And so it's about limitation, but also about giving them the words and the language to talk about what's happening, what they're seeing, and how it impacts them.
Yeah, wow. You have just opened our eyes to a world for a lot of us. Kyle, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, an important topic. We hope you watch this segment along with people in your life as well. Why don't we take a break? We'll be back right after this.